nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yes, again. Okay. Thank you, Lean.
Obstruction.
Sorry? Yeah,
I know,
that's
it's
right.
unusual.
She does not have that.
Great.
Yeah, me too.
We are actually going to skip over number C, because we have no minutes this evening, and we're going to be going to D, appearances and Arbor proclamation.
We have the.
Sorry, proclamation for Arbor Day. Whereas in 1872, J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for planting of trees, and whereas this holiday, called Arbor Day, was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska, and Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world, and whereas trees reduce the erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, cut heating and cooling costs, moderate the temperature, clean the air, produce oxygen, and provide habitat for wildlife. And whereas trees are a renewable resource, giving us paper, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and countless other wood products. And whereas trees in our city increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, and beautify our community. Whereas trees, wherever they are planted, are a source of joy and spiritual renewal. And whereas the city of Monona has been recognized as a Tree City USA by the National Arbor Day Foundation and desires to continue its tree planting practices, now therefore I, Nancy W. Moore, Mayor of the City of Monona, Dane County, Wisconsin, do hereby proclaim Friday, April 25, 2025 as Arbor Day in the city of Monona, and urge all citizens to celebrate Arbor Day and to support efforts to protect our trees and woodland. Further, I urge all citizens to plant trees to gladden the heart and promote the well-being of this and future generations. Signed, the City of Monona, Dane County, Wisconsin, this 21st day of April, 2025.
Great.
Thank you.
Come here. And let's make sure, is there anyone else here for making an appearance on anything, items not on the agenda?
Yep. We're in the public hearing section.
Okay.
Nobody here, nobody online. Okay, we're going to close the public hearing section. And there is no consent agenda tonight.
Mayor, I think we were going to ask to move item G2A
Yes.
up to the
Yep.
current, please.
I would like to move item number G. G.
G2A, I believe.
G2A, correct, up to the front of unfinished business. So Jeff, if you want to, and Mark,
Yep.
if you would like to come up.
Was it started under, do you know?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Yes, this is started for immediate approval. Do I have a motion?
I'll move to approve.
Just to actually,
Suspend.
yeah, motion to take this out of order. Suspend the
I'll
rules. take it
move
up,
to
please.
take this, I'll move to suspend the rules and take this out of order.
I'll second it.
Thank you.
Yeah, just a quick thing before Jeff.
Oh, we need a vote. We need to vote on that.
Yep, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Well, go ahead.
This is Jeff Belangi from Hutchinson and Shockey, our financial advisor. So what this is our 2025 capital borrowing. The reason why we're just doing it here end of April instead of earlier in the year, one, we were waiting for a couple of large bids that came in. If you remember the last meeting, we talked about the roof. I think it's on the agenda tonight, and Kelly Place. So we adjusted our borrowing based on those two our bids that just recently came in. So we're down to $3.3 million. Last week we authorized Jeff to go out to the market to take our bond out to the market and come back at this meeting with the results. So I'm going to let Jeff talk about the results from the bond market.
Mayor, if we could, I think we just need a motion to approve before, and second, so we can discuss.
Okay, sorry. I'll make a motion, I'd like a motion, consideration of resolution 25-4-2804, authorizing the issuance and sale of 3.3 million general obligation promissory notes, series 2025A. Mark, before you start, so do I have a motion?
I'll move.
Do I have a
Second.
second? A second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Well,
Okay,
hang on, we want to hear.
We did, yeah. No, they're actually,
That was premature.
yeah, but
sorry.
that's okay, we just need the motion and then for discussion.
Yeah,
Oh,
Yep.
my bad.
That didn't happen.
I think the mayor's to be applauded, she's just trying to shorten the Always a positive. Thank you so much, appreciate the opportunity to be here. As Mark said, congratulations, we actually locked off $1 million once the bids came in. Certainly a pleasant surprise for us and for the city. The other part of the thing is that, of course, we're in a volatile market, but you'll see, I think, from the handout that I put on everyone's desk, hopefully everyone's got a copy of sheet.
No, I didn't get it.
we got it.
Okay. Congratulations, Rachel, welcome. This is typical, this sheet here is typical of a pricing report that we use and have used over the past, just to highlight the nice points about each borrowing that we undertake. We show pricing, which is the center column where you'll see interest rates from a 3.37% out to a 3.78 in year 2034. We're paying back this debt over that time period. Some of it will be offset by revenues coming from stormwater and from water. So those will be apportioned out, so not all of it will impact the tax levy. And I think, well, man, I don't want to speak for Mark, but we kind of massaged that structure based on your input over time in terms of how we wanted to pay these things back. And again, congratulations on your AA+ rating. That's outstanding. We had a nice conversation with the rating agencies. Everything was very positive and went quickly, and I could tell it was a good feel for what was about to happen. We went into the market today. Monday morning today was actually somewhat stable compared to where we've been over the last couple of weeks or month. There was a lot, as I explained to finance, there were a lot of bonds that came to the market in 2 weeks prior to this. The market did actually assimilate all of them. So that was encouraging, and was more encouraging for me because I didn't really care about any of those other guys. What I cared about was today and Monday and what we were doing as of last Friday. So all in all, we are going to be able to provide a net premium to you guys of $107,147. Those premiums in the state of Wisconsin need to be used for or toward your debt service payment, so that'll go into your debt service fund on the day of closing, and Mark will then utilize those toward next year's budget, debt service budget and levy. You should generate at least, we're predicting 66,000, it'll be more than that, I'm sure. I kind of like to guess on the low side, but you'll be generating some interest income while it's waiting to be utilized to pay for projects. And when you look at the 337 out to the 378, 41 basis points over a period of 2026 to 9 years of payments. Not a huge spread. The market is still somewhat flat. So all in all, we have a true interest cost on the date of closing of a 4.33%. And that will be, of course, reduced by the amount of money that you generate in interest income.
Just so that, that $107,000 of premium, so next year's budget, even in this year's budget, it's called fund balance out of the debt service, so it isn't, we do use that every year, figured premiums, so there will be next year, at least $100,000 will come out of the fund balance.
happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Jeff, would you be so kind as to share something, share in personnel and finance, which might be helpful for some of the newer people, especially Rachel in this group, in terms of sort of a more historical perspective of what this 4% is, you know, compared to what the recent memory, it seems really high, but
Correct.
the reality is.
Yeah, it's a good segue, Mayor. When we look at history, and of course, I've had a fair amount of history in the municipal marketplace. This is my 44th year of working with communities like the city of Monona. This is 2003, I started with the city of Monona, and so I've got a nice history in terms of what we've done. At that time, our rating was an A by Moody's, and they were currently at that particular point threatening to downgrade us. We are now at an incredible AA+, and that rating is indicative of how we will compete in any given market for dollars, okay? And of course, the higher that rating is, the more secure that investment is. So when you look at buying a municipal bond that's backed by the city of Monona, we don't, believe it or not, we don't issue a lot of bonds. We come to market, but you know, your bonds are short, they're short-lived in the market. People put them in their portfolio, they like to have them. We know who's bought them in the past. We can go back to them and say, okay, Monona's coming with an issue, we expect it to be somewhere around this amount, and so we kind of get a lot of them lining up. But going back in terms of the mayor's point of interest rates, and we'll use the TIC, the true interest cost here, the 433. We've had quite a few years where we did significant improvements within the community, within the city, where the cost of our money was 2% and under. Like TIC. Those days are behind us a bit, and when you look back even further, there was a period of probably 15 years that I was doing this business where if we had a 10-year issue, general obligation issue, and it was in the AA class, and you ended up with around a 450 or something under that, we felt pretty darn good about the cost of that money. And I'm only saying that because you go through fluctuations in interest rate markets and what you're able to obtain. But from this standpoint here, when I look at our cost of money versus where we've gone with inflation and the fact that, of course, we're borrowing $1 million less than we had anticipated, these projects really, over the term, inflation's going to eat up that, no question. So. Again, I don't know how many issues we've had where we were certainly under 2.5%, and I think if I go back, 2.01 jumps in my head as one of the ticks that we had on one particular issue. I can go back and verify that, but I know we were pretty close to just over 2%. And
I think our average right now is around 3.
yeah, and so, you know, a lot of times, Doug, or someone will say, hey, Jeff, are there issues out there that we should refinance? And I'm watching that stuff all the time, but when you look at most of our debts out 3% and under right now, there aren't much opportunities to refinance where we're going to save some money. The other side of it is if you have money, you're probably better off to reinvest it in an interest-bearing account than to pay off 3% debt. I mean, I certainly don't have to tell you guys that. It's more rhetorical than it is educational. But so yeah, you're in a fine position, and keep managing it well. Keep listening, and it's important to make note of our fund balance. Oftentimes, I think when you're going through budgets, you don't want to try to invade some of that and utilize it, but that's a one-time fix for things that you don't really want to address. Let's continue to earn that income, earn your it's a nice, ledger item when you're looking at a few $100,000 in interest income. Those are monies we don't have to borrow, and they don't really cost us anything, so. But good question, Mayor. I hope I covered that okay for you.
That help?
Yeah.
Great. Good. Okay. Any other questions? No? No questions? Do I have a motion?
Yep. Motion's up, I think.
Oh, sorry.
Yep.
See, I'm so confused now. The motion is here. With that, I will be looking for a roll.
Yes, roll. Alder Rademacher?
Aye.
Alder Kugel? Aye. Alder Bernstein?
Aye.
Alder DePula,
Aye.
Alder Holmquist,
Aye.
Alder Wood.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Carries.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Jeff. Safe trips home.
Always a pleasure. Thanks, Mayor.
Okay, now with that, we'll go back to the top of unfinished business. Number 1A, consideration of resolution 25-4-2794, approval of the general development plan, GDP, for 100 to 300 River Place by DSI Real Estate Group LLC. This is the second read, Doug?
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, everybody. So this is the second read for the River Place General Development Plan. I'll give a very high level, just with a new member on council, kind of where this is. General Development Plan is sort of the master plan for this development. It sort of guides the phases, is sort of the higher level approach for this. This is a 3-acre site at 100 to 300 River Place, kind of on the western side of River Place itself. And we have a couple renderings up on the screen as well. Overall, the GDP envisions 227 units of multifamily residential across 2 market rate buildings. And this would be a phased approach with phase 1 and 2 coming on. The applicant is also seeking tax increment financing as part of this, and will be returning to the city's CDA later, most likely next month or the month after. So this did receive Plan Commission recommendation for approval. The findings of fact and conditions are included in the staff memo, and the approvals are also included within the City Council packet. We're joined this evening by representatives from the applicant as well.
And Mayor, can we get, we just need a motion and a
Yeah.
second to discuss, please.
Yeah, we'll do. I thought they presented, I thought it was okay for them to present first as long as we didn't discuss it. But be happy to take a motion, right? Have a motion?
I'll move to open discussion.
Do I have a second? Okay.
Is that a motion to approve?
I think we generally would need a motion to approve.
I will move to approve.
Okay.
I move to second.
And I have a second. I have a motion to approve and a second. Now we can go ahead. So with the discussion.
Yep, for discussion,
So
yeah.
any questions? Would you guys like to add anything this evening?
No, we're just glad to be back here today to discuss the project. Happy to answer any questions that the commission may have. I think Doug did a good job of just the big overview. Alder Cougar, welcome. Happy to answer any questions you might have about the project, but we're excited to bring an opportunity for some much needed housing into an area that helps diversify both the activity on the site, fits the context of the site, but also offers housing choices for the community. I think we well received, so happy to answer any further questions that you might have.
Thank you. Happy to open it up to the council. Does anybody have any questions? Doug?
Yeah, as you recall, at the last meeting I had asked about what kind of renewable or sustainable features were going to be in the project and discussion of possibly requiring that. Did you have any further thoughts?
Well,
on that?
I think, I remember correctly, the 3 things we talked about were the EV charging stations.
Right.
And, we'll put as many of those in as we need. We'll keep adding them as they're called for. So we're fully committed to that, as well as to put the infrastructure and to install above-ground ones if those become needed in the
Right.
future. So that's good. We talked about green demolition. And I don't have a whole lot of insight on that, other than to say that I know it's a big, important thing to this group, and that makes an important thing to us, and we'll do everything we can to make sure that that's done in a responsible manner. And likewise with the solar, like you said at the last meeting, that, we can find a way to make that work, and I think we can, we'd be committed to do that as well. I just don't have the specifics.
Right.
Any other questions?
How do we get to the specifics?
How do
I
you
mean,
get
is
to-
that, so I'm hearing you say, if it's important to you, it's important to us, but I just don't have the specifics. So then in my mind, I'm like, well, how do we get to the specifics?
Well, in our role, we'll need to bid it out, right, for the
Yeah.
demolition of the building itself. We have a certain amount budgeted right now. Our next phase is value engineering, to figure out where we can save money in some areas and put it in other areas, and that'll be the juggling act that we go through next. So, we get the specifics by figuring out what is it gonna cost to do this, and does it fit into our overall budget? With the solar, it's not just what does it cost to do it, but it's also like what's the payback and how will we use that power, within the property, even though much of it's, separately metered.
Mm-hmm.
So that's all the next steps about trading this for that. But, all I can really add is that, we got a long history of doing what we say we're gonna do in Monona, and we'll follow through.
Patrick?
Just a quick question. What happens if you don't receive TIF assistance?
I don't know the answer to that question. We're finalizing our numbers right now. But I can tell you that the first round of numbers that we had, the TIF is absolutely vital for us. We expect our new round of numbers in the next week or so, and that'll be the next thing we'll do, is we'll start nailing that down a little bit and start working with Doug and the CDA to figure out what makes sense for that.
Good.
Yeah.
Hello, gentlemen. This is my first time having this presented to me, but I just want to say that I love the second design. I think you guys really responded well to the comments of the Plan Commission. This is a beautiful project. I love the materials and the articulation. I think you guys went over and above. I think this is what we're looking for. I think these are the TIF, this is why we put out the TIF districts. We want density. More housing, the better. That's what Dane County is asking for. That's what we need. So I just want to commend you guys on putting together a really nice project and responding well to a lot of comment that you've gotten so far.
Well, I would echo that as a thank you to the community, to the commissions and staff that we've worked with throughout this. Oftentimes projects go through a process and they need to adapt, and this has made the project stronger. So we do appreciate the opportunities to work collaboratively with the community and hopefully bring a better project forward as a result of going through the process of conversation. So.
Great, good.
We had more than a few chuckles at the Plan Commission meeting about getting rid of the red.
Yes.
Specifically.
I remember that. I saw that.
And there are lots of Badger fans, but everybody was like, we don't need red. Yeah,
One
Rachel.
question, and I apologize if this is a duplicate question from before, but I just see, with the parking not meeting the basic requirement, and that it will be reviewed again before phase 2 takes place. Just curious if there is a set length of time to assess phase 1 before phase 2 development begins.
Yeah, so one of the things with the parking is that, as you mentioned, the opportunity with the phase GDP allows us to fully lease up the first building, understand how it is operating, what the market demands look like, and then make adjustments to make sure that the second phase follows suit. In essence, road test it, make sure that it's working the way we expect it to. We do believe there's enough parking, given them access to transit, given the access to on-street parking in close proximity, the additional lots owned by the applicant across the street, gives us some opportunities to both get people in the building, and also when we transition, start to build the second building, have flexibility to move that parking around so there's not an issue. But as you said, the phasing allows us to do that. The real test is when that building is fully occupied. And we anticipate that that will happen before we move into the second phase, just to make sure that we're hitting the market demand for parking, for unit size, for finish. A lot of different things will get evaluated beyond just the parking. That will lead us into the final designs for the second phase.
Any other questions, comments? Doug?
Yeah, I was gonna offer an amendment. I did send this out by email, or Neil rather sent it to everybody. Hopefully you got a chance to look at it. Essentially what my proposal is a reporting requirement to basically have you guys identify what the sustainable features and measures that you've taken in the project and figure out how much those you think they will cost, and then at the end, report, what was actually done and the actual cost of those measures. So there's not, these two paragraphs, they wouldn't require you to do, anything specifically, but it would give us data on what was actually done. So I did provide the language to the clerk as well, but I will move to amend the GDP conditions of approval as follows, to add paragraph 5 that says the applicant shall report to the city planner the project items that promote sustainability, including measures to reduce climate change impacts with the estimated costs prior to commencing construction. And paragraph 6, at the conclusion of the project, prior to the issuance of an occupancy permit, the applicant shall report to the city planner the sustainability measures included in the project and the actual cost of those measures.
I have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Any questions, discussion about the motion on the floor? The amendment on the floor? Amendments? No? Yeah.
So, from our prior discussion, this doesn't get to the piece around solidifying any actual improvements in these areas. It just is saying if they make those improvements to do the reporting. Like it seems like we're a half step off, although like I understand where we are, I get it. But I feel like we're a half step off, meaning we're trying to like wedge in an amendment to say, hang on, like these things matter to us, which you mentioned, like it matters to us, matters to you. And like it's tough for us to kind of bake it into a GDP when the next agenda item is a PIP. So it's really tough for us to say, hang on, we're gonna require solar as part of the GDP. You go back, figure out how you're gonna do it, come back to us. Because then we would have to go to our next agenda item and say, how do we approve this when it doesn't show an item that we're expecting? So I have some hesitancy with that of like, hang on, how can we require something if the next time you're asking us to approve it? But I understand where we at.
Well, of course, neither the GDP or the PIP have any finance connected to it at all.
No
For this
finance
project.
and no expectation that these things
Right.
be done, except some of the EV pieces are in there, correct? If
Yes.
I saw it correctly.
The EV, there is a condition for roughing out, so not fully installing, but roughing out for EV in covered and at grade with staff approval. And that's for phase 1 of the PIP.
And so there is a hesitancy, and maybe it gets approved here from the GDP and PIP standpoint, and maybe your hang-up will be with a different group, and when it comes back, if there's a request out of funding, like it comes back for this group to also approve that funding piece, so if we're adding it here, I think that is also sending the message of like, it might not be contingent here, but it might be contingent on this body then approving funds, if that makes sense.
I understand what you're saying, you're asking me that, but
Yeah.
I understand what you're
Okay.
Doug?
I mean, that was kind of the reason I pulled back on saying we want, solar for this and et cetera, because, even if we were doing the PIP later, it's still pretty, to bring it up the first time this late or in the middle of the process seemed a little unfair to the applicant, so, but as you described, it was kind of the message that I was hoping would get across, that it does matter to us, and so.
And I would say just from my point prior to the vote on this piece would be, I understand and appreciate the difference between asking and expecting and looking at what is the benefit and payout. especially if it comes to a solar project, like, I think we see the value of those pieces, but I think there's also the recognition of like, how do we do that in a way that makes sense for the project? So I think, speaking for myself only, that would be what I would be expecting to see in the future for approval of likely money associated.
Does that not assume that city financing would be the only money available for that?
I think if we don't put any teeth in this amendment that says the project can't go forward without these things included,
Right.
where else do we actually have any authority?
Right.
We only have authority at this step, or
Right.
if there's city financing connected to the project. And I'm not assuming there will be, but you've mentioned there is, Doug mentioned there is. I've been at the CDA meeting, I know there is. So I think the only teeth would be either part of the GDP and PIP, or if there was any city funding connected, those are the only spots where we have the leverage to make that requirement. So I'm okay with the amendment as is, but I just want to be clear at the same time, like, I don't want you to walk away going, well, we don't have anything there, but at least speaking for myself.
Any other comments, questions? We have an amendment on the floor. All those in favor say aye.
It's not a yet, sorry, but I think the.
I just said that, so I haven't read the amendment, I don't really know exactly what it says, but just to make sure I understand it, you're basically asking us to make a good faith effort to do everything that I mentioned this evening and come back and report to this group on what we did and the decisions we got to and why we got to those decisions. Is that what you can answer us?
Yeah, well, it's more just what you did and how much it cost, report that to the city planner. I mean, it'd be great if you wanted to provide additional background or context of how you got there. I think that would be useful for us, not just for this project, but future projects as well.
Understood. Thank you.
Do you want us to read the item, so you know exactly what it is?
I think that'd be great.
I don't know if everybody has it pulled up, but
I did read it once.
Yeah.
Would you like to read it again?
That was all of it?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize that was.
Yeah.
That was it, yep.
I'm sorry, okay, sorry.
and it's just those two items in those two small sections.
Yeah, it's just, yeah,
Mhm.
conditions 5 and 6 would be added, those two paragraphs.
Okay, anything else before we vote? On the amendment. So let's vote on the amendment. Right? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, amendment carries.
And then back to
So
the
now we're
original
back to the original motion. Any other discussion, questions, comments about the original motion on the floor? This is the GDP for the River Place development. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed? Carries. Okay, we're gonna go to number GB, 1B, consideration resolution 25-4-2795, approving the planning commission recommendation for 100 to 300 River Place Phase 1 PIP for DSI Real Estate Group LLC. Again, by the planning commission, Doug?
Thank you. So yes, this is the,
I think you would
Yep.
like a motion first.
Thank you, Mayor.
I'll get it. Do I have a motion to approve the PIP?
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second? I have a second. Okay. Now, go
Thank
ahead.
you. So this is the precise implementation plan. So this is where we get into a little more detail. The GDP is kind of the overview. This is the specific for each of the buildings. So this is the phase 1 request. This would be the western of the two buildings. And this would be at the 100 River Place, the existing office building, closest to the new pediatric dental. This would be 125 units of market rate residential. This would be 7 stories from the boardwalk side, 6 stories from the street. Of course, those plans align exactly with what was approved in the GDP. This phase also includes ground floor activation, integration with the Riverwalk, tenant amenities including an outdoor pool, plaza deck, fitness center, community room, pet wash, tenant storage, as well as at-grade and covered parking. This was also reviewed at the same Plan Commission meeting and recommended to City Council for approval.
Thank you. Guys have anything you want to add to this?
No, other than to say, to clarify, I apologize, I didn't introduce either of us to everyone. So Brian Munson with Vanderwall and Associates and Dan Brinkman with DSI Realty. So
Thank you.
there we go, just to catch up to the record.
Thank you.
Brian, do you need any slides or anything up for this one? Okay.
Okay, great, right, okay. So, we have a motion on the floor. Any questions on the PIP? No questions?
I was going to propose the same amendment language as conditions 30 and 31 of the PIP, unless somebody wants, I'm not going to read it again.
Okay. So, you're proposing an amendment. Do I have a second on the
I'll second it.
amendment? I've got a second for Brian on the amendment. Any discussion on the amendment? It's the same amendment that we did for the GDP? No discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Amendment carries. Now we're back to the original motion. Any other? No other? All those in favor of the PIP? Signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstains? Okay. PIP. Carries.
Thanks,
Thank you,
guys.
gentlemen. Good to see you again.
Thank you.
Welcome, Dan. We are at GC 1C, consideration of resolution 25-4-2796, amending the 2025 capital budget for Kelly Place stormwater improvements from the Public Works Committee.
I'll move
Do I have a
approval.
motion?
Yep.
Thank you. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a second. Go ahead, Dan.
Great, thank you, Mayor. I'll be presenting this one, and Brandon will have the next two, just like at the first meeting, then I'll have the item for chip sealing again. This is the second reading for the capital budget amendment for Kelly Place stormwater improvements. The recommended changes coming out of the Finance Committee have been added to the resolution that's in your packet right now. And staff received bids on March 20th from 2 contractors for this project, and that bid came in at $1,965,883.41. That low bid was significantly higher than our overall project budget, and that's why we're seeking the capital budget amendment. Staff is requesting the additional funding in the amount of $216,000 for the stormwater improvements, which includes a contingency of 2.5% for the project.
Any
The city-
questions?
Just a little bit more,
Okay,
Mayor.
yeah.
The city administrator is also authorized an additional $110,000 in consultation with you, Mayor, to be used as additional project contingency as needed. The total project cost is going to be $2,076,000. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And Mayor, if I can just clarify that.
Yeah.
That is, that additional contingency that you have authorized me to approve if necessary was simply to avoid having to bring it back to this body, and if it was a timely issue, so. So the contingency was kind of what was originally presented. It's simply just been broken up into a couple of different funding sources, so. So
Yeah.
hopefully we don't need it, but
Right.
if we do.
If you remember, the
then authorized,
contingency
yeah.
originally was a lot higher, and we
Correct.
decided to cut it
Right.
back, but
Mm-hmm.
all things considered, we thought it should be there. So, any questions? Right.
Has there been a public information meeting about this? Do people adjacent to the project know about it at this point?
We have not held a public information meeting like we typically would for a normal street project.
There's only 4 properties that are directly affected by this. We held off in formal communication just because we didn't know if we were going to get the funding. If this project is approved tonight, we are making contact immediately tomorrow with the 4 adjacent property owners.
Okay.
So
Is
there
there-
will be and also a letter for additional residents, a certain buffer beyond that we'll be sending out as project notices, and then we'll have notices on our website.
Mhm. And is there room yet to change any of the landscaping plan depending on the kind of feedback you may get from some of the neighbors or neighborhood in general?
Well, any changes at this point would be eating into that contingency. We have, I think the landscaping amenities that are included in the project, I think we did go above what we normally would do to blend it into the neighborhood, to make it more appealing. If there's additional plantings needed after the fact, the city will do that out of our other funds available. But as far as what's planned for now, I think we have a pretty good project for it.
Thank you.
And Alder, if you didn't see the last council packet, there is actually a rendering of the project, I believe, in the previous council packet. It
Yeah.
actually does show what it looked like, it'll look like on the surface, so the paths and the landscaping and so forth, so, let's see
Yeah.
if I can try to bring that up, so.
No, I think it's a good project. I
Good.
just know that people who live adjacent to it could feel differently. And I just hope that there's room for Public Works to maneuver to work with the neighborhood to have a project that everyone's happy with.
Okay. Anything else? Great. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We need to do a roll call on this one. Mayor. Yep.
Oh, it's a.
Oh,
big
sorry.
project,
Is
right?
this sorry, it's the award contract.
Yep.
My bad.
No, this is 6:30.
Yeah.
This is essentially, this is just the award of contract.
Yeah,
and
it's
it
the award
includes
contract,
the-
sorry.
Yep.
We didn't vote on the amending the budget yet.
Yeah, this is for the amending the budget.
Yeah.
Okay, the specific language. Yep, okay, amending the capital budget, yes, correct.
Okay. And so this is obviously needs a roll call as well since it's over 100, since over 25,000. So with that, I'll take a roll call.
Alder Kugel.
Aye.
Sorry. Alder Bernstein.
Aye.
Alder DePula.
Aye.
Alder Humphries.
Aye.
Alder Wood.
Aye.
Alder Rock.
Aye.
Okay. So we amended the budget.
Yep.
Thank you.
So that takes us to G1D, consideration of resolution 25-4, 2797, award of contract for Kelly Place Stormwater Improvements Project, Public Works Committee. Dan, we'll take a motion.
Move approval.
Second?
Second.
The second? Okay, go ahead, Dan.
I believe Brad is online.
Yep.
Brad?
Yep, can everybody hear me?
Yep, you're good, Brad.
All right, that's always a good sign. So the Kelly Place Stormwater Project, for those who have not been at the last meeting and are new to this, I'll give a little summary, very brief. The city is required by the DNR and its participation in adaptive management program through Yahara Winds, which is a regional effort to improve stormwater in the area and water quality. We must reduce suspended solids and total phosphorus in our runoff for stormwater. Those are pollutants to our local and regional waterways. And in order to do this, the city has invested significant funds fairly routinely over the last 10 years to install infrastructure that helps settle out stormwater and reduce those pollutants. So this project is the largest project to date by far. And it includes the installation of an underground wet detention system, which is basically like a storm water pond under the surface in large concrete vaults. And the city has received $1.15 million in grant funding to perform this project. And Dan covered all of the budget items already, so at this point, nothing else has changed since the last presentation at the last city council meeting. Public Works approved this on April 2nd and recommended approval for city council. So I'll take any other questions at this point in time.
Thank you. Questions, Brad, Rick?
Hi, Brad. If I recall, this is like, you have to do these every 5 years to be in compliance with the DNR's requirements for stormwater pollution. And is this like one of the last places you'll be able to put in a pond like this, a detention pond like this?
So this is strategically located, that is correct. This is one of the last potential locations to make a major impact on our pollutants of concern that the DNR regulates. And yes, we do have to do some type of progress that is loosely defined in the permit requirements from the DNR. But every permit term, which is once in every 5 years upon issuance of the approved permit from the DNR, we have to perform some type of improvement project. And this would be the one within this current permit term, which is 2021 to 2026.
So do you have to put your thinking caps on to come up with something that'll work in the next 5 years? Because we're still in a deficit, right? We're not meeting the absolute goals that the DNR has prescribed.
Yeah, so for clarification, we're probably never going to meet the goals that the DNR has required of the city.
Okay.
Because of adaptive management through the Yahara Winds program, we have the potential to meet their requirements to participate in their adaptive management program, which basically subsidizes the city's needs in terms of reducing pollutants. So we are one project away after this project is successfully completed from reaching those adaptive management goals of 27% reduction in total phosphorus and 40% reduction in total suspended solids in each of the 3 major watersheds that the city is in. So one more project basically from hitting those standards. Yes, that is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, comments?
Brad, I guess I was just remembering, that you have a fabulous map of all of the storm drains in the city, and there's like yellow lines that represent, all the watersheds within Monona and where they all drain down to and all the outflow into the lake. This particular project, I don't even know how to say it. You said it was a major project because of just the scope and the price of the project, but is it also considered major because of the amount of outflow or the number of storm drains that might ultimately flow into this water retention, holding tank, or?
Yeah, so this project is in the largest watershed in the city in terms of the cubic feet or whatever, the amount of stormwater that comes through this system. This watershed in the city is the largest in terms of volume.
So
it currently has no treatment outside of private installations, which are very minimal. Something on a half-acre site, on a commercial site, or something like that. It doesn't do a lot. So this is a fairly significant project, especially for what you might consider an urban landscape, which the city of Monona is. It's landlocked. There's not a lot of green space to do projects in outside of park spaces. So this is a really, really great win-win for the city. It's an old right-of-way that was never built into outside of sanitary and stormwater infrastructure. It doesn't displace park operations, programming, or otherwise. We create an ADA compliant accessible path over the top of the structure, connecting two major roadways in the city that run north-south in Midmore and McKenna. It leads directly down Kelly Place to Winnequa Road, to Maywood Park. Honestly, it's probably the best stormwater project that we've done to this date, you know, in terms of it doesn't need to be maintained very often. It has the most grant funding that we've ever received. The list goes on.
And you have a real impact on the health of the lake, just because of the quantity of stormwater that's being routed through this underground retention pond. I mean, that's fabulous.
Yeah, it takes the Stonebridge project, which is essentially the exact same underground device, multiply it by about 5.
Wow.
And that's about the size of this project.
Wow.
Anything else? Any other questions, comments? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Do roll call. This is contract award.
I'll get it. Thank you for your patience, everybody. You know, just, I want to say, every other meeting we do the motion last. I mean, like, plan commission, the motion comes last. So that's why I'm Katie Wampus tonight, and I apologize. Elaine, could you take the roll call?
Alder Bernstein?
Aye.
Alder DePula?
Aye.
Alder Holmquist?
Aye.
Alder Wood?
Aye.
Alder Rademacher?
Aye.
Alder Kugel?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to move to number G1E, consideration of resolution 25-4-2798, award of contract for Public Works Garage Building Envelope Improvements, Public Works Committee. Do I have a motion?
Move approval.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Let's go ahead, Dan.
Brett?
Okay. So the Public Works Garage, this is a much-needed project. We've had issues with a leaking rooftop for many, many years now. It's just gotten to the point where either we're replacing all the insulation inside the building because of black mold and damages, or we're replacing, roughly 40%, which is what this project has entailed. So at this point, nothing has changed since the last time I presented this. Just as summary for those in the room, it includes the complete replacement of the rooftop over the entire facility, all new caulking and sealants, all new rubber gaskets around doorways, painting of existing doorways, sanding and painting to spruce them up, new siding, which is aluminum siding along areas that have been damaged over the years, and there's a secondary portion of this, but we will hopefully be permanently fixing the ventilation system that's inside the building too. So, and just as a reference, no major improvements have happened in this facility, in this particular building, since the 1990s. So this is a much needed project that came in well under our anticipated budget for it. So I'll take any questions.
Any comments, questions, Rick?
Yeah, do you have any idea why the bids came in as low as they did?
Yeah, so the engineer or designer that we have on this project, originally, if you remember, we brought the proposal for this project with the HVAC project that we did at this facility. I want to say that was 2021 or 2022. And we did not have the budget to do both portions at the time, so we just split it into 2 phases. One was to redo the HVAC system in the building, which was very old at that point, and the other was to do the rooftop and building facade improvements. So phase 1 was done, and then 2 years later, we budgeted again. The original estimation was still from projects that the designer had done through the state, and which came directly on the heels of COVID and all the inflation that we were dealing with at the time. And so the bidding environment was brutal, to say the least, at that point. The pricing was all over the board, and we, because of that, directed them to be fairly conservative in their cost estimation for the project. And they were, obviously, right? So we had other contractors come through and give us a price just for the rooftop. And the price at that point in time was around $600,000 for the rooftop. So that's just the rooftop. So their estimation, they thought they were comfortable with it. Obviously, bids came in well below it, and we are where we are at this point now.
And KSW, you've worked with them before, they're pretty good. We've had good
Yeah, so
response.
KSW is a major commercial contractor in our area. They're getting bigger and bigger, taking on larger projects. They've done several projects for the city of Monona. At this point, they've done 3 projects for the city since 2019, and each project has been very successful. They've done a good job. I thought their project managers were well informed and on task and on point. They were easy to communicate with. They were prompt when issues came up, and they have a business acumen, and they are looking out for the customers. So I have faith in KSW to work forward and do this project successfully. So I would recommend approval at staff level, and Public Works approved this on April 2nd. So.
Cool. Thank you. Yeah, that's good news.
KSW is doing the community center project right now, aren't they?
Correct.
Correct. Yeah. Indeed. Okay. Any other questions, comments?
I'd just like to make a note that you, as your first meeting as mayor, and Alder Krug will have the opportunity at your first meeting to save the city over $1 million on this project.
If I see that on a campaign flyer.
You betcha.
That doesn't happen very often.
I know. I'm impressed. Okay, I'll be happy to take a roll call.
Alder Sepulveda.
Aye.
Alder Holmquist.
Aye.
Alder Wood.
Aye.
Alder Rademacher.
Aye.
Alder Kugel.
Aye.
Alder Bernstein.
Aye.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you, Brett.
Thanks, Brad.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
You too. Okay, that takes us to number G1F, consideration of resolution 25-42799, award of contract for 2025 street chip seal project from Public Works Committee. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Okay, Dan.
All right, thank you, Mayor. We received bids for this project on March 13th from 2 contractors, the main 2 contractors in our area that do this work. Farner Asphalt Sealers provided the low base bid for the chip seal work for the amount of $135,378.98. Public Works Committee did recommend Farner as well for this work at the April 2nd meeting. We will be doing 17 streets, and I believe there should be a map included in the packet for you to see the areas that we're going to be doing. I believe that would be about it for my summary. Any questions?
Rachel, would you like any kind of an explanation as to what chip seal is? You don't have to. I'm just offering. If you'd like, Dan, he's good at describing.
Is that where they put like the gravel on top?
Yes. This will be a black granite. It's a very small chip.
Okay, that's what I thought. I do have a question just on how streets are chosen to get this.
I have to complete a PASER road rating every year. That's required by WSDOT. So we rate all of our streets based on a 1 through 10 scale. And the streets that are typically, depending on the condition of a 5 to 7 rating, will receive a chip seal. If they're rated lower, that's usually when we start looking at the mill and overlay phase. And then
we reconstruct roads mainly based on the age of the water main and the condition of the water main. So the majority of road reconstruction projects that you've seen in the city are because we're replacing cast iron. So the chip seal is our second line of defense. We usually like to do crack filling when cracks show up in, let's say, a road that's rated 8, which is still a pretty good road. The goal is to seal those cracks as soon as they show up, and the theory is that the road will last longer. And the chip seal is your second line of defense. So, but I think that the chip seal might last 5 to 7 years, and then usually around the 10-year time frame, we would come by and do another chip seal again. So.
I did put the map up too, Dan, so.
So it extends the life, yeah,
Mhm.
considerably of the roads by staying on top of it. Yeah.
I think you told us last time how many miles this was.
Only after you asked the question.
Right, but I don't get the answer now.
Roughly, I believe it's right around 2.6 miles, 17 streets, 43,000 square yards, or 13,950 feet.
Yeah,
So,
and that's out of the total roads, city roads, of what, 30?
34 total miles we have. So,
Okay.
it's a pretty good chunk of streets.
Right.
Yeah.
Just for our understanding, is the 34 miles include Monona Drive and Broadway?
No. 34 miles.
It's just local
City
streets.
miles, local streets, right.
Good question, though.
Just to have that. right?
Yep, we do not have jurisdiction of Monona Drive or Broadway, so the county maintains those streets.
Okay, any other questions, comments? If not, clerk, please call the roll.
Alder Holmquist.
Aye.
Alder Wood.
Aye.
Alder Rademacher.
Aye.
Alder Kugel.
Aye.
Alder Bernstein.
Aye.
Alder DePula.
Aye.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Dan. Okay, that takes us to reports of committees, commissions, board.
And the emergency operations plan, Mayor, is the next item on there.
Did I, where did it
That
go?
should be the very last one. No one, top of the next page. There we go. Item G, right at the top.
Oh, sorry. Item G, consideration of resolution 25-4-2801, adopting 2025 emergency operations plan update, Public Safety Committee.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll go
Any
ahead and
questions?
provide a quick update on that. No changes from our last meeting. This document is simply kind of our operations manual, if you will, by departments and elected officials. So if should a disaster occur here within the city, it's a collaborative effort, obviously, between the chiefs, myself, and all of our other department heads really are all involved. Literally every department would be involved, depending on the extent of some disaster that would occur. So this outlines, it is not an absolute script, but it is absolutely a checklist of items that we need to be reviewing as we proceed in responding to a disaster here in the city. So certainly happy to answer any questions anyone might have.
Anybody have any questions? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
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 The emergency operations plan is approved, the update is approved.
Thank you.
And thank you to our public safety for working, I know that was.
Committee was very
There.
helpful, absolutely, and our the chiefs and the
Yep.
committee were very helpful, so.
Terrific. So that takes us to number H, reports of committees, commissions, boards. All of us. Rick, do you want to start down at your end?
I have no report.
Patrick?
No report.
Brian?
I don't believe I have a report here.
Doug?
CDA meets tomorrow night, and we'll be discussing TIF request from Walter Wayne for 5105 Monona Drive, and also a TIF request from Slendy Realty and NSP Companies for the Owen Road project.
Great. Teresa?
Couple of things. In case you missed, excuse me, in case you missed the city newsletter, I wanted to share with you a statistic from the Transit Commission. And all of a sudden, my voice just left. So when we look at like the first month of Madison Metro ridership numbers, and we think about we look it back on March of 2024 and then March of 2025. And when we think about March 2024, total rides from first student, including Monona Express, Monona Lyft, that number was 902 rides. And in March of this year, when we look at total rides from Madison Metro, which also includes paratransit, and we're only counting, of course, everything along the route, only those stops that stop in Monona. So that's 2,740 rides. So from 902 to 2,700, just spectacular statistic. It just exceeded all expectations, and I would just continue to be really proud of how that's rolling out in Monona. And the last committee I'll comment on just is sustainability. When we kicked off the meeting tonight, the mayor read a proclamation for Arbor Day, which I thought was very fitting for your first proclamation as mayor. So this Arbor Day, volunteers of this Sustainability Committee and community members will be planting trees. We're at that point in the program now. We're just finally getting those trees delivered this week. On Friday, they'll be at the Public Works Garage. We had 26 trees that were delivered as part of the program, the Monona Tree Program. They'll be delivered on Friday to people's homes, and then on Saturday we've got volunteers from the high school and the community and the committee, and I believe the mayor is one of our volunteers that'll be helping us plant trees just for those folks that requested planting assistance. So I'm really looking forward to sharing more statistics about this program as it goes on. Other committees are just too new. We haven't met yet. Reached out to the city leaders and the chairs, and that's about it. Great.
Rachel?
I do not have any updates.
Okay. Great. Elaine?
No report.
No report.
I have just a few items. Want to let alders know that utility shutoff notices for those who are behind will be being sent out sometime this month. So this is something that happens every year. The city's policy is, I think it's legally we can't shut people off for not paying their water bills during the wintertime, or it is spring, usually around April 15th. This is the time of year when essentially payment is expected to be made. Most often than not, when they get that not so great correspondence, folks are motivated to get that payment put in place. There are instances where folks can't make payment, and we do accept payment plans to assist them in doing that. However, we do have some instances of some folks who have not kept up on payment plans either in the past. So most likely action on that will be, if the notices I don't respond to the notices, there is a possibility that they will have that water shut off. So just to be certainly letting the public know, as well as certainly alders, that if you get a call, that's probably, this is something that will happen every spring as we go through and attempt to get those completed. So if you have any questions, certainly reach out to Director Stefani for any questions specifically on that. Demolition has begun at the Top Golf site, formerly at WPS. If you haven't seen that, there's all kinds of activity out there, mostly just taking things down. But it is fascinating to watch and amazing how fast they are going. What was started off as a giant pile of dirt has now been largely moved and spread out, and windows are coming out of buildings, and it's remarkable how fast they're moving. So certainly going to be keeping an eye on that as it goes through. Staff is in receipt of, we've been waiting for a final site plan map from Adams Outdoor on the billboard. We've got that. So I'm assuming that Director Plowman is happy with the level of detail on that map. We'll be finalizing some of the directions that this body gave in closed session with Adams, and hopefully be bringing something forward here in May here for the meeting. So an updated lease. So stay tuned for that. We're also going to be meeting with our architect as well as our construction manager for the Civic Campus to finalize a cost estimate, hopefully in the first week of May. I imagine that would probably come before our ad hoc committee first, and then possibly into council sometime in June to actually have an actual cost estimate on what we think it would possibly cost to make the renovations that we were looking at, and then just discuss what sort of options this body may wish to want to look at that point. Did want to make a note that the police department and Friends of San Damiano are working together, ramping up some security measures, hopefully for the back end of the house. Folks probably saw, I think even on the city Facebook page, there's been some vandalism, people throwing chairs into the lake and just doing some generally not great things back there. But they was, just to let folks know publicly, if you see something, say something in general, but there will be some additional, probably some patrols, maybe some lighting and some other things that we're looking at and actually working on adding with to try to get some things tightened up there. Another interesting note is, just want to make sure folks are aware, our 25-26 short-term rental notices for permits will be going out this week to let folks know it's time to sign up again to get that going. So applications are expected to have, this year are expected to have their inspections and everything done with their application. As we rolled it out last year, it was kind of a little late on that, so we gave them a grace period, trying to get some of those things in. This year, we expect them to have those inspections done by the time they put their application in. So fingers crossed, that streamlines and makes it a little easier for staff to process that if those things are all done. So more updates to come on that. Our current number of rentals, I think, is around 36 or 37 right now, active units. So we have lost a couple. There are 2 of them we are pursuing enforcement action on in terms of not following the rules right now. So just as an update with that. Just to be a couple other small things, we're actually taking our first steps towards implementing our agenda management software. We're working, so the same provider does our website, actually has a software that will hopefully make Leah and Lean's life a lot easier in terms of managing and assembling some of those agendas and so forth. We're going to start with the council agenda, and we'll be rolling that out to other committees over here the next couple of months. And then lastly, if hopefully folks have noticed the veteran banners up on Monona Drive. If you haven't noticed them, there's 17 of them are up now along, that are actually up along mostly, I think mostly kind of the northern part of the drive. So we kind of want to make sure those are visible during the parade, and want to thank those folks who took the time to actually pay for that banner. We're excited to see those. Hoping for a little more, but for a first year, 17 is pretty good. So we're hopefully going to see that program maybe grow a little bit in 2026. So.
I had heard that the dirt pile by Topgolf was not from the site, that it had been dumped there from somewhere else. Is there any truth to that?
I'd have to refer to Director Plowman on that, but I think there is some. They're going to need some to fill in some holes when they demolish some buildings. It would be I would suspect Alder. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it is permitted at this point. So.
Okay.
Great.
That's it.
Thank you, Neil. I just have a couple of things. One, just to go back to San Damiano for a minute, there was a tree company there today doing a lot of tree work. San Damiano, that being obviously managed by Friends of San Damiano now. And I think they seem to do a really nice job. I drove through this afternoon. Second, we're barreling towards summer, so I just want to remind everybody that we have the biggest Memorial Day parade in the state, and usually all the alders are there, so if it's not on your calendar, please make sure it's on your calendar. It starts at 10 a.m., and we're always gathering by the high school, and probably have Doug reach out as council president on that. I just want to make sure you have it in your calendar.
We do have a vehicle. We have the vehicle secured.
You do?
Excellent.
Fantastic. Yes, you have,
To
as
cross the
alders, you
street.
have the option to either be in a vehicle or walk. As Teresa has often reported, we go through copious amounts of candy.
Yeah.
So, because there's so many people, the number of bags of candy is kind of scary. But, we do have a lot of dentists in Monona, so Amy, that's...
And then I also wanted to mention that we're very aware that we have some openings on a few committees left over, and I spoke to Leah at the end of last week, and we're going to be looking at the folders. So if you're a committee chair, Leah will be sending the folder of any applications that were received for committee openings to me as well as to the committee chair. And then we can both review and decide who we should look at, who we might want to talk to, or otherwise for the mayor to make the appointments. So just know that that's coming down the pike. I think we still have some committees that will have openings that will have to leave the openings open. I mean, or the call for applications open. But like, for instance, I know Transit's it's been advertised for 6 weeks now. So I think we have some applications there. And then I also just wanted to mention that as some of you already know, certainly Teresa knows because she's already responded. One of my concerns going in has been that there's been, I'm not convinced that every constituent that has reached out to us with questions or comments has received a response. So I would like to get into a routine with alders of, I don't know, if somebody writes to us individually, obviously that's a different matter. But if they use the contact form to write to the whole council, the process I'm all about process. It's been my life in work. So the process I'd like to use is that if it's about a specific item that clearly fits into a committee, that the chair of that committee is going to be responsible for responding. And if you need staff help to respond correctly, I would encourage you to reach out to staff to make sure that your response is accurate. And I would ask that chairs respond ideally within 3 business days. And if for any reason you can't respond, you're not here, or you can't respond, or don't respond, then somebody else will pick up, including potentially me as mayor. I might ask somebody else. But when you respond, please not only copy Neil as city administrator, but also copy me and blind copy the rest of the alders. That's really key, because that's the only way that we know that you've actually responded, is to let the rest of us know. And for obvious reasons, there can't be a copy conversation between all of us, so we'll blind copy everybody. Does that make sense? And I'll follow up with an email with everybody just to lay out that process again. But I do know, and I don't mean people that send us contacts without an email or with a faux email. I mean, people that are or people that otherwise might harass us on a regular basis. But I do want to make sure that we're responsive to our constituents. So again, I'll follow up with an email on that. And last but not least, I just want to thank everybody and thank everybody for their patience tonight. Like I said, I'm used to meetings where the motion comes last, not first, for obvious reasons. Or maybe it's not obvious. But like on the Plan Commission, we'd have 16 amendments, and something, because we're always, we're building the motion as we're discussing an item. And that's true with a lot of committees too. So anyway, I thank you for your patience and Neil for your assistance.
That's what you
And
pay me for, man. It's
Liam,
okay.
and it'll get better. And with that, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.
There we go. Dang, official, that's right.